want to address myself to the issue of identification, because I think that is what we are here to discuss today. So to begin with, the KIMS kit that is going to be used during the election has got two important information. And this information resides in the SD card. One of the information is the biographic information, which basically is information regarding the voter. And from the name biographic details, we are talking about names of the voters, their polling station, their ID number, their photograph, their polling station, their date of birth. These are the biographic information. And then the other important information that is going to be resident in the SD card, which is also slotted in the KIMS kit, is the biometrics of the voters in that specific polling station. So immediately a voter turns the polling station after we open the polling at 6 o'clock in the morning. The method that is going to be used, that is the default method that is going to be used to identify the voter, is the biometric. And therefore the voter will be required to place their finger, that is the thumb, on the fingerprint reader. The fingerprint reader will actually be able to identify this person. And from there, then this person or this voter should be allowed to go and be given the ballot papers for them to go and cast their vote. Assuming that we have got 700 voters in a polling station, which is actually the maximum number of voters allowed by the law, then the KIMS kit will be having 700 voters multiplied by 10 fingerprints, because each and every individual has got 10 fingerprints. So we'll basically, during enrollment process, we normally take all the 10 fingerprints. So in the identification process, the voter will be using their fingers. If the thumb does not work, they will use the other fingers. You can even test all the 10 fingers to make sure they are working. The reason for that is because there is a possibility of false rejection, that a legitimate voter appeared to come and vote, but the identification system is unable, the fingerprint reader is unable to recognize this. And this could be for several reasons. It could be because the person is doing hard labor and using their hands. It because maybe also they are masonry, they are touching a lot of stones and all this. So it is possible for their fingerprint quality to be not good, and therefore the default method is supposed to check. And when you place your finger in the fingerprint reader, the fingerprint, and assuming that we have 700 voters, it will scan through 7,000 fingerprints, because we are talking about 700 times 10 per voter. So it will scan through 700 fingerprints to see whether this fingerprint that has been placed there matches with any fingerprint that is there. So in case then this doesn't work, then the next step is now to use what we refer to as complementary method. And this is where we are going to use the ID number or the passport number. Essentially, the document that the voter actually used to register during registration. So we'll actually enter the ID number, or even at the back of the ID number, there is a feature that you can use MRZ to scan, and it will actually populate the information on the screen. So which information are you going to see on the screen when you use the national ID number or the passport number? You are going to see the photo of that voter. You are going to see the name. Essentially, the details appearing on the ID is what is going to appear on the screen of that KIMS kit. And with the picture, you are able to now positively identify that this is a voter who is supposed to vote, and therefore you can allow. But before that, before even allow, when you retrieve this information regarding the voter, you also retrieve the 10 fingerprints that we actually use to enroll. And therefore, the voter still can be given an opportunity to still place their finger. And now the KIMS kit will search against the 10 fingerprints as opposed to 7,000 fingerprints. That gives opportunity again also for the scanner to check the quality of fingerprints, and most likely this person is going to be identified. But in case this person is not identified, even when you can be able to see their picture, we can say this is the right voter, and therefore we will call the candidates, the representative of the agents of the presidential representative, for them to come and witness. We will issue Form 32A that will be used now to confirm that this person has been identified through complementary method. So when the Commission talk about complementary method, we are referring to complementary method that is used when the biometrics fail, and they can fail for various reasons like what I've stated. Now, it is also important to know that the SD cards holds information regarding biographical information and biometric. The biographical information is the replica of what is actually in the physical register. It has the photo, it has the name, it has everything, including the ID. Now, if we now turn to use of the register, and previously this is what we have done, when a voter appears at the polling station, the voter is going to be identified using biometric as a default method. If it fails, then use the complementary method. But after being identified, the clerk will look for the name of this voter in the physical register and cross it out. That was the method that we used before. And this method is prone to abuse. This is what we are trying to say, is prone to abuse. Why? And this is what I want to actually demonstrate today. Because it is good when we can say that it can be used to check, for example, how many people have voted, in case maybe there's an issue of technology. But when you identify voters through technology, the system automatically archives. It archives the details of those who have voted, meaning that if that person is supposed to present himself again, then that person cannot be able to vote. The system automatically will sound an alarm, and therefore we will know that somebody who has voted is coming back again to vote. Over and above that, the system will also maintain account and tally of those people who have actually voted. At the same time, the system is in a position to, when you are opening the polling station, it will send information as to what time that KIMS kit was opened. And then periodically, at some point of time, it will be sending information regarding the turnout of the voters who have just voted. So this information can be used to tell the country how many people have actually voted. In addition, if later on you also want to analyze the information in terms of how many people have voted, how many females have voted, how many youth have voted, this information is likely to be provided with analysis of that information. Now, if you look on the other side, and this is what we are doing before, we were identifying people through use of KIMS kit, but at the same time also crossing out the register of voter. When you do that, and when you use the complementary method, whereby we give Form 32A for those who have not been identified biometrically, but through alphanumeric search, then we cross out the names in the register. A certain period of time when people are tired, around 3-4-ish like that, and especially in remote areas where there are no observers, or maybe where there are also strongholds, it's possible for people now just to use information, the register of voter, like ID, to key in the KIMS, retrieve that information, allow the people to vote when they are actually not there in the first place. This is what we are saying, that this is something that can be exploited, and therefore it can lead to people winning illegitimately. And that is why the Commission is keen to ensure that the method that is going to be used will actually guarantee free and fair election. Now, this is what we are talking about. When you look at it, basically, it makes sense. Our returning officers will be at the tallying center, waiting for results from the presiding officers. The presiding officers are just temporary officials that we recruit. They are going to work for possibly 2 weeks. These are the people who are going to be responsible for declaring results at the polling station, and the results announced at the polling station is final. And we are going to give them a big responsibility, including possibility of them also using the details in the physical register to use in the biometrics, in the KIMS kit. And potentially, basically, allowing people, or maybe even people, to vote more than once. Because if I'm somebody's friend and is a presiding officer, and I come and I say my ID number is this, and that ID number is basically entered, this information is populated there, and I'm allowed by the presiding officer, then it is possible that you can even do it ceremoniously when people are tired. Just keep on entering the ID numbers, passport number, and clearing the remaining one. So you can see that maybe in a polling session we have got 100% turnout, 99% turnout, 98% turnout, which maybe may not be true. So to hedge against that, it is the reason why the Commission is advocating for this. But I am happy that today the stakeholders, the people who have put stake in this election, are here, so that this matter can be deliberated on, and whichever position is agreed today is what the Commission is going to go with. We are not going to stick to our guns. We are going to say that, okay, if this is what has been agreed, then let's go with it. But we must also understand the potential risks that are actually inherent in that process. Now, so that is about why use the KIMS kit to identify biometrically, and to use alphanumeric search as a complementary method vis-a-vis using now the physical register. Now, I think also the issue has been, how can you guarantee us that the technology is going to work? It's going to work without failing us, so that we can be comfortable as we are conducting ourselves, as people are voting. What assurance can the Commission give us? I think this is a challenge to us. But what I want to state is that, first of all, as we speak, in 2017, we bought 45,000 KIMS kits. And during our checking, because we have got a production factory, we are actually checking all of them to confirm how many are in a good conditions that can be able to be used during election. We actually observed that 41,000 out of 45,000, 41,000 are actually in good working condition. Now, you are also aware that, and this information is in the public domain, that we bought 14,100 KIMS kits. Now, if you add 41,000 KIMS kits to 14,100, you get approximately 55,100. We have also gazetted that the number of polling stations to be used in 2022 election is 46,233. If you subtract 55,100 from 46,233, the figure that you get, if you divide by 1,450 watts, you will get that we will have 6 backup KIMS kits per ward. Now, in comparison to 2017, we had 45,000, and the number of polling stations were 40,893. 883. If you subtract from 45,000 and you divide that figure by 1450, you will find that we had 2.8 backup kits. Essentially, if you round it upward, it's actually 3 kits per ward. Meaning that we are going to this election with more backup kits compared to 2017. And therefore, this is to assure you that the mechanism has been put in place to make sure that the system is going to work. Also, what I wanted to let you know is that the KIMS kit, as I said, it works offline in terms of identification. It does not connect to any back end in terms of identification, because, like I said, the information regarding the register is the resident in the SD card. That is the biographic as well as the biometric information. Suppose we have a challenge with one KIMS kit, and based on our assessment, it's beyond repair, we cannot be able to use it. The simple thing to do is just to remove the SD card, bring the backup kit, and insert in this new backup kit, and there it is, it's going to work. It is going to pick from where actually we stopped from. And this information, like I say, is the resident in the SD card. So there is no cause to worry about, because we can swiftly be able to provide that backup kit and by inserting the SD card from the kit that is malfunctional in a kit that is working, we can be able to restore very quickly, and we work without losing any time. But suppose we lose time, again, also, the law allows us to compensate for the lost time. So we are giving you all the assurances that the technology that we are going to use is going to work and is going to guarantee free, fair, and credible election. But going back to the issue of physical register, and I want you to go to the second slide. I want us to take ourselves back to 2017, whereby this similar issue was actually litigated upon, and it was actually litigated under Civil Appeal number 328 of 2017. In a case versus where the IBC was sued. So it was a case between NASA and IBC. In this petition, the aggrieved party argued that voter identification and transmission of election results should be exclusively electronic. That was the argument in 2017. And the court litigated on this case, and this petition was actually dismissed. Now, on the same case, the Court of Appeal adopted the IBC internal memo dated 27th July 2017, which stated that the procedures leading to complementary mechanism of voters' identifiers should include, as stated there, that is, the presiding officer should ensure that voters are identified using biometrics features, that is, using their fingerprints. And biometric identification is a primary mode of identifying voters. That is the ruling. And 3, where a voter cannot be identified using biometrics, then alphanumeric search as complementary mechanism will be deployed in the presence of agents. The presiding officer will only resort to use of a printed register of voters after approval by the Commission and upon confirmation that a kit has completely failed and there is no possibility of repair or replacement. In which case the procedures in Regulation 26 of the Election Technology Regulations of 2017 basically applies. I think my last slide on this, and this is basically, like I said, is just to set tempo so that it can elicit discussion between the Commission and the stakeholders. Then why are we saying that we should use? I think I've been very, very clear in terms of why should we use a physical register why should we not use the physical register and use the KIMS kit as a method of identifying voters, either through their biometrics or complementary method? One is because, for one, the Court of Appeal judgment actually recognizes alphanumeric search as a complementary mechanism, which ruling I think up to now has not been challenged. It is still in force. And two, like I stated before, the printed register basically creates a haven for conspiracy in the casting of illegitimate votes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've tried my best to explain what is actually at stake here. And therefore, either I should be guided whether now you want to discuss this first, or you want me to continue and finish with the issue of the reverse path, and then the matter can be discussed together. Your guidance, Mr. Chairman. I proceed.